forgot this thing needs a new battery. Okay, we are recording. And we will start with the CPA.
Thanks, Jamie. You couldn't wait 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes.
I'm doing that because CPA is fairly quickly, and I am the chair of the CPA. The CPA begins on page 85. I wanted to, sorry. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes of May 10th, which were distributed today?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor, you have nothing except for...
Yeah, I'm not gonna add to your agenda. You
Public
got enough
speak.
on it.
So we will start with the CPA. We're starting here primarily because it's fairly quick. We did increase each of the open space, historical, and housing, which are the 3 areas we are required. We increased them by $5,000 to $75,000. Jamie, repeat why we did that for me so that I don't mess it up.
So when we were proposing the budget, we did not know what the state match was going to be based off our anticipated local taxes and what we had been seeing in state matches from previous years. We set the open space set-asides well above what would be 10%, so that way we wouldn't have to come back and do any corrections to the budget at a later point in time. The state law requires that we set aside 10%, but optionally can set aside more.
10% of the next year's total budget.
Correct. You have to set aside or spend within that fiscal year.
Okay. Now, I want to let everybody know that the $486,000, which is the total amount of budgeted item, assumes a 20% match
In round
for the
one.
entire year, or in round 1.
Right.
But you told me that discounts the second and third round matches, so we should get at least 5% more to cover that.
Yeah,
Which is why the CPA didn't change the budget or we didn't decide to change the budget when we heard about the match.
Right. Because
So I
the
stated
budget,
that
the
correctly.
$486,000, the total budget is lower than what we reasonably anticipate to take in revenue for the CPA. But then the 10% matches are higher than anticipated. So we end up setting aside more in the set-aside accounts and underestimating the total budget. So that way there is, when those extra revenues come in, they sit until the year closes, the fiscal year closes, and that would be about, it's the difference between a 20% match and a 25% match, maybe $10,000 or $20,000 that sits, that's
And then-
unable for the CPA to use until the next fiscal year.
Right, we're only allowed to use the 486.
Right.
Okay. So, the rest of the items under this deal with each of the accounts and what we spent this year. You'll see there's a large expense for the Cook County Road drinking water, and I don't know if we said this, we said it at the CPA, but the water grant did come through for that, so that's gonna be spent. Open space, $445,000 in this year's budget. So the CPA does a lot of good for us. Historically, $206,000 for the second floor design. The design is underway for the second floor. We're very happy with that. Anybody have any questions on the CPA money?
Just quick, so athletic field improvement, just, that comes out of the reserve fund, it's not one of those 3 designated. Where do you?
So that was already funded. Those funds have already been taken out of that was the 2017 budget. But open space projects and recreation projects can both draw from the open space set aside.
Okay. That's my question, is where does recreation come from? It comes from the open space?
Yeah, or the undesignated.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can use the undesignated fund. We need to use each of the designated funds until we run out of them, right? Any other questions on CPA? I'll take, nothing, sir?
Nope.
Yeah. All right, then I'll take a motion. Oh, I don't have the motions in front of me. Wait a minute.
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate this, how did you
The City Council Finance Committee recommends to the full council that we raise,
that we raise and appropriate the sum of $486,000 for the various departments listed under Section 9, Community Preservation, and the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations, with the total amount to be raised and appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund as recommended by the mayor and finance subcommittee.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Jamie.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, so now we're gonna go to public safety, specifically the fire department, because he has a game to go to, chief, so.
Thank you.
Besides, he's big time now, he's got all this state notoriety. The fire department in the, I must admit, chief, I thank you for that, what you sent us. I have no questions on it.
That was my hope. So I sent it to you.
It looks like an almost 3% increase, and we'll go over it now.
Show me the page again, sorry, Dan.
It begins on page 22 of the 117-page PDF. That's the public safety breakout. And then we move to fire, which is after police,
What tonight?
after crossing guard, where is it? Fire department, which is page 30. That's where I am right now. So I see there's a regular salary increase. Is that because of an anticipated or already approved contract negotiation?
In 5111?
I don't see the numbers associated.
I'm pretty sure it is.
The full-time regular?
Full-time regular, yeah.
That's due to step increases with employees that still have steps left.
Right.
Okay.
You should have that on your, on the sheet that you gave them to, chief. That's right down here.
So I'll ask this of both departments. When are contracts due up?
Right before this one. Right. That's really nice. I didn't hear what,
You're
I
in
didn't hear what you asked,
You're in
Dan.
negotiation now?
I didn't hear what you asked.
Labor contracts for fire
For
department?
fire?
Yeah.
I'm in negotiations now with them.
And they're up at
Theirs
the end of
expires
this
July
fiscal-
1st.
So
Yes, fire.
have you included in here expected
No.
increases? No?
No.
So we'll just do a supplemental after?
Yep.
Okay.
No, we're just, just beginning negotiations, so.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention is the budget dropped $100,000 in overtime, and I assume that's because we put some people back. And that's great. I'd rather have full-timers, part-timers versus overtime.
Well, we added a firefighter
Last year.
in last fiscal years, that when we put back the one police, one fire, and then the DPW also, and some schools.
I just commend that. That's
So we're-
excellent, Karen.
That's the hope.
And as usual, we keep our maintenance costs relative. I mean, you don't add a lot, because if there is a truck problem, you'll come to us, which I think is a better.
It just, that,
myself.
for both fire and ambulance, that only reflects preventive maintenance and normal testing. So if there's a major break, then pump or transmission, something fails.
Right, normal maintenance, like changing the oil or something.
Right.
On the incentive, so that's for classes, college
Under
classes.
the 2200 under fire,
Yes.
that is the education incentive as part of the collective bargaining agreement. That's what comes out of that one for advanced degrees.
Is that akin to the Quinn bill in police?
Yes.
So you're up 179 in that? That's what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
That's due to newer members coming in with advanced degrees that retiring members didn't have, and current members finishing degrees.
Okay.
Is there any restriction on the type of degree, or does it have to be related to?
It has to be related to the fire department.
I think it outlines it in here too,
Yeah.
Chief. He's outlined
Yeah,
it. Do you see,
Would that
you wanna see that?
I have it, but I didn't open it yet, so.
Yeah.
Would that include, like, EMTs becoming paramedics?
No, that comes out of the ambulance budget.
That's ambulance incentive, okay, all right, that makes sense. What do we, I wanna ask this, what do we purchase of services, 62,450? Is that payroll or something? That's the next, budget, page, 31.
Is that?
Department 2200? Oh, that's you, department, I'm sorry. I don't have the account listed on this, particular budget.
Miscellaneous professional and technical services, that
Are
one?
you looking at,
Purchase of services, the general budget, down below, it says salary,
It's the list that's above it. These ones up here,
The medical expense radio.
oh, so that's the
alarm
second
repairs.
page of this.
those totals are down
Yeah.
Thank you, I was reading it. It jumped a page, so I didn't realize
Oh,
it was
okay.
the total. Thanks, Dan.
So did for medical, is that EXP expense?
Yes.
It went from 56 to 13.8. Is that a combination of something else that's been rolled up, or the first?
what line item are you
First,
on?
very first,
Okay.
under,
No,
Purchase
okay,
of
medical
services.
expenses, 5173.
So
It's at 5,600 and now it's up to 13,800. No, it was
That was,
requested at 13,800.
correct.
oh,
in there.
Yeah, it was
Right,
requested.
it's,
okay.
that's, all right. No problem.
My bad.
Understand, at least somebody else can't read besides me. So, you requested 62, you actually spent 68, and Mayor, you've decided that you'd rather wait and see if it's needed before you just increase the request under these items.
Right.
All right. I have no more questions on fire. Either of you? Joe? We're gonna move to ambulance. So very little,
Yeah, there you go.
overtime is what it is. We went up to 249, is that, 225, is that an increase also due to?
That's to older members retiring that were EMT basics and hiring paramedics,
Gotcha.
so they receive a higher incentive rate.
Okay. How many, by the way, paramedics do we have? Every fire department
We are
personnel has to
at-
be EMT trained, correct?
Correct. We are at 15 paramedics currently, out
Out
of
of-
26 members.
So if they wanna, we have an incentive. Am I reading that right? And there is incentive to,
You put the incentive in
There's incentive to have an EMT, an incentive to be a
Right.
paramedic.
here. Okay, so this sheet would probably help, the sheet that he provided.
yeah, I should have opened that
Yeah.
file, because it has all the
You're
explanations.
more than
It's
welcome to use
calculated on the
mine. I gave
base
mine to
salary.
Joe, but
Okay,
it's
got it.
just a little overview. You want that,
But,
Dan?
no, I'm okay. I mainly basically wanted to tell you that, ask you, the education incentive to go up from an EMT to paramedic is there for them in that line.
Or for the ones that we hire that are already paramedics.
What are they getting, what improvement do they get? Go back to
Well,
medical
it's a
school?
condition of their hire, that they have to be a paramedic and they have to stay a paramedic for their career.
And they continually have to be re-educated or continue to recertified? is that
Recertify
what's
every
that?
2 years, yes.
Okay. And that we pay for?
No.
Which is, we don't pay for it?
Nope. They-
What's the education incentive then?
They receive their incentive.
It's part of their incentive where they have to pay their own course costs, they don't get paid overtime to go to EMT refresher class.
They
which
get a
is-
percentage of their base.
It,
Thank you.
right.
Got it.
You know what, why don't
I
you
got
just
it.
read it? You sure?
Mhm.
Because it's,
Okay. Should have done better homework is what Karen.
no,
said.
no,
No,
I'm not
it's
saying that
true.
at
I
all.
should have read that totally, and then I wouldn't have so many questions.
He's right here, he doesn't mind answering anything, doesn't mind reading.
I know.
We're all right here,
It's
that's why
right
we are
there.
here. It's not an issue at all, no problem.
I have nothing else on ambulance. Does the rate, by the way, the ambulance rates go up every year?
No. It's probably been, what, 4 or 5 years?
What's it, is it based on what the insurance will pay out,
It's
or?
based on Medicare rates, which
Okay.
is the standard practice.
And insurance companies have to accept that.
Right now, they do. There's a push to let them set their own rates,
Oh, my God.
which the Medicare rates, we're losing 50% of what we bill right off the top on Medicare calls.
Oh, really?
I do have I do have a question. So you had requested 338, looks like, overall?
You're on the total peg?
Or, yeah, for ambulance.
Okay, you're on ambulance.
And you will be getting 314?
Hold on, hold on. He's on ambulance. Yes.
Yeah.
So is there something that you're not gonna be able to do? Because what did you have in the 338 that you're not gonna have in the 314?
Most of that is EMS incentive. It's 20, take it, the salary.
Yeah, the
Here's the-
EMS
yeah,
incentive
right.
was, I think that was the only cut, correct?
The 5142.
Yeah, yeah, that was the only
Yep.
cut.
That was that's the difference peg from the 249 to the 245.
And does that mean, does that mean that somebody won't get trained, or?
No, they'll still receive their pay. It'll just,
Incentive isn't training. It's a percentage of their base pay.
As long
for-
as they
for
maintain their
what they've-
certification?
Yes,
Right.
for what they are. They're an
Okay.
EMT or a paramedic, or,
What would have been the bigger number? What would have driven that?
anticipating one retirement, filling one retirement that's happening at the end of this fiscal year and next fiscal year. Person retiring is an EMT basic, the person who will be replacing them will be a paramedic. And then there's another potential retirement in the next fiscal year.
Will we not see that then, this year?
Probably
When they
not.
retire, you'll just, okay.
Isn't the ambulance fund things it brings in, obviously, revenue? How is it still trending up? Is it, did you do the last year?
The last couple of years, we've been trending up. I think this year we're pretty flat overall, I think, right?
last year we finished up with, because when you come back for transfers for billing,
Right.
it's because we've billed more. So.
This
but
year's-
because of the percentages that we lose, like you were saying,
Yeah.
50%.
I think this year's revenue is, it'll at least meet last year's total. The problem being, as we get more people that are Medicare Mass Health, we lose 50% right off. We're losing money on those calls.
Mhm.
What percentage of your budget do you get on revenues? Is it 10%, 5%?
All of mine goes back to general fund.
All-
Oh,
yeah.
so it isn't, okay.
Right,
so
it's
it
not
doesn't go
related
into
to
this.
going back right
Okay.
into their job. Same as, permit fees and things like
Mhm.
that.
More questions on ambulance? Okay. Joe, you all set? I'm gonna go to dispatch because fire department, as I recall, supervises dispatch. so-
They both do.
I have their-
Dispatch falls underneath
I have their
police and
letters
fire.
their payroll.
I'm just curious, how many personnel do we have in dispatch now?
We just added to that last year too,
Right, that's why I'm asking.
same type of thing for overtime class.
6
So
full-time.
now we have 6 full-time
Right. And we have one.
this fiscal year.
One part-time permanent. And then we have,
6 full-time, 1 part-time permanent?
and then 3 part-time.
Called,
Are they being trained so they could fill in eventually as
Yeah.
full-time?
Yes.
Yep.
Good.
Actually, all 3 on-call can work on their own. And the 2 part-timers are within days of being cleared to start working on their own.
Are they on call in case you have a major incident or a situation?
No, if we need to fill a vacancy on a shift to
Vacancy
save
or
overtime.
vacation, something like that?
Yep.
exactly that.
So that prevents overtime?
Exactly.
Good.
That's the goal.
you'll take it that I'm not a real lover of overtime. And the increase is matter of COLAs or wherever.
Yeah, step
Steps,
increases.
their pay
Step
plan.
increase. Oh, their pay plan?
Their pay
Dispatch's
plan.
pay plan.
Yep.
I forgot that, thank you.
So steps and,
There's no COLA in this, it's just step increases.
Right, the mayor gives out COLAs
we've been.
in the
doing-
middle of the year, you don't do it.
We've been doing the pay plan in January.
In January.
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions on the dispatch?
I'm more curious, so, it looks like was something combined on the uniform allowance? What?
No, Valerie's changing an account code.
Oh,
Okay.
here.
Oh, yeah.
And those are good questions, Peg, because you're gonna notice, different changes throughout, because there has been a lot of combinations, so you'll see that as you keep going.
So when it's zeroed out, it goes someplace else?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Radios, telephones, blah, 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 no change there. Although the request was for more, so what are we not getting? Or what did we hope
Yeah,
to
for
get?
That was, we recently received a grant from the state,
Mhm.
and all the furniture and technology in the dispatch center was replaced. It was original to the building in 1999.
Mhm.
So our annual maintenance agreements cost has gone way down because almost all the equipment is under manufacturer's warranty.
I'm curious, dispatch holiday pay, it's at 98, last year it was, original was 96, but then it went up to 13,700. Is that because of more personnel getting hired, that it went up? The adjusted budget, it's 13,700 now, or this year. And I assume it's because personnel increases
We
in
added.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
because
Yeah.
adding
We added people.
full-time, two full-time, right?
Two full-time.
We added two full-time
And
dispatchers.
I kind of recall those supplementals going through.
Yeah, that's why the holiday pay went up. We have more employees.
Okay, good.
Right.
Joe, do you have anything? Anything else? Okay, fire chief can go back to his
Hopefully
game.
they don't miss a big lead.
Well, my team won.
Who was up 15-0? The
Well,
varsity?
No, JV, we ended up winning 21-0.
Well, that sounds like an exciting
They'll bite
game.
it.
That is a tough one to try to coach.
Hope there was popcorn.
Whenever I had those games, I couldn't wait till the fifth inning.
I left it Tammy in charge.
Thank you.
They lost 16 to
Thank you.
15.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Police department. Where was I?
Where are we?
I noted one big change, request versus actual recommended, under overtime pay. 254, 394, chief?
Yep.
And the mayor is actually a little less than what was recommended last year. I'm wondering what you anticipated by doing that. If you could state on the record.
No, absolutely. It goes back to how many open beats that we have per year, and trying to, we don't have minimum manning. We have kind of an unwritten minimum manning where from a safety level, we don't dip below. But so we leave a significant amount of beats open. Did you get a copy of my narrative?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'll make sure I get you a copy, because it really goes through and explains each and every line item.
At least I can say I can't say I got it and didn't read it.
Right, no,
Like I
no.
did with the fire
No,
department.
I presume that it went along with it, but I'll get it to you, because I cover staffing in it,
You
I cover
just-
ComStat training, I cover all of the requests and I articulate.
Right, but that's your request to me.
Right.
So what they ask is just like what the chief was going through, what your requests are and then what you've got, so.
Right, and that's what,
Right.
but this
Mhm.
part of it articulates why we're looking for what we're looking for.
Right.
To the mayor's office.
I wouldn't mind having a copy as
Sure.
whoever comes.
Yeah.
But to that end, so we leave 800 beats a year open. So there's trying to put more officers on the street to cover those beats.
So for the people who might be watching this, a beat is a shift?
Yeah, a shift. So there's 800 shifts, that are left open, that we don't have to fill, with overtime based on our minimum, our unwritten minimum manning, if that makes sense.
Well, just so people don't think something's not, obviously, if we could cover them all, we'd be safer.
Right.
But we're not unsafe, we just don't, we've had this situation for years.
Years, yeah.
Years.
It's always an effort every year to try to continue structured staffing. It's adequate staffing that we do with our minimum manning, but it would be better served staffing if we were able to fill more of these open beats. But we're also working towards, we put in for another detective every year, we put in for another full-time patrolman every year, and that would obviously augment a lot of this open beat stuff. And to your point, Counselor, we would be less overtime, obviously, with another body.
Okay, so right now, didn't we put somebody back last year?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I'm trying to explain.
Yeah.
We added a police officer last year. So that's, again, that's our hope.
Mhm.
Doesn't always work
Well, of course.
like that,
The
but
shi-
that's our hope, to cut down on
And the
overtime.
shifts you're referring to are shifts back when we were at full staff, way back in, what was that, 2004? When were we at full staff? We're still down a couple.
2009 was when we had 4 detectives. 2004, I don't know. what the
I
exact
thought that's when we went down.
Yeah, I believe.
We
you're
started
right.
losing either 2008, but we started losing staffing in every department one year and then.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a good year.
Okay. Do you have federal grants in play that might help us get that staffing back?
We do. We have quite a few grants in play. We've been doing a lot of traffic safety grants, which we've been putting. So we have a traffic car out, but that traffic car also helps augment shift calls. If the entire shift's tied up, the traffic guy will go to calls and help answer calls. We've been doing a series of those, distracted driving, radar, click it or ticket. We've been doing a significant amount of grant work. We've been doing more grant work this year than we ever have.
Mhm.
We've done a full court press on getting state and federal monies for these grants. And it's an officer, at the end of the day, although they're working grant patrols, it's an officer on the street. So that too helps augment.
Those grants usually like 3 years and then we have to decide. and
No,
then
these are
have-
These are
yearly.
yearly.
Yeah, we apply for them every year.
I know, but I mean, if you got one?
No, it's-
You're talking about a personnel grant. He's
Personnel
talking
grant.
Oh,
about
no,
different
I'm
grants for
talking
different
I'm
programs.
talking about personnel grants, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
no.
No, and actually, the the fast cops grants, they don't
Exist anymore?
exist anymore, right?
Okay.
No, and you're correct in thinking we did apply for a personnel grant through fire
That was fire, right?
and did not get it.
Right, I remember that last
Yeah.
year.
And that is exactly that, they're 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we're very, we put the person on anyway, but that's why the fire went on after everyone else.
And I don't know if this figure is accurate, but what would with benefits and everything, a new officer would be like 60, 70 grand with benefits?
I believe it's,
I mean, at the lowest pay scale?
yeah, I believe it's high 50s.
And that's including
Including
benefits,
benefits.
and it would cost us 50 to 60K for a new person.
Are you talking about health benefits?
If you were
Dan?
to add another person,
Fully
Yeah, he's-
loaded.
Yeah,
Fully
that's,
loaded.
that's not fully loaded, Dan. Like, he's talking about
Salary.
salary.
so fully loaded, well, if you're gonna add a person, the mayor would have to consider the whole cost.
Yeah, of course.
We're looking at 70, right?
Good 12 to 15 for
It's,
health insurance.
I was just gonna
60,
say, you've
70 is
seen
fair.
the health.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought it was 70, okay. And that's for the lowest person on the poll,
Yeah.
so it ain't. But he is a police officer and they put their lives on the line, so certainly deserve the pay.
And I'll also say that we took, when we did our budget proposal, we did do it, have you guys met Cindy? Cindy Perry, she's my executive
Hi.
assistant, she's the,
Okay,
she does a tremendous amount of work on the budget.
I'm here to learn the process.
Mhm.
Um,
Thank God you're here, because I won't say
But
it.
So although,
That's off the record.
our request, although we try to strive, those open beats on the overtime, our request this year even really hammering down the numbers, taking a hard look, was still less than what we requested of the mayor's office the year before. So we did come down from our year under Chief McMahon's request.
Okay.
What is police specials?
So, this
Very
is,
important.
this is, yeah, very important to
Yeah.
Councilor Ritz. This is an overtime saver, a major overtime saver. My police specialists have full police powers. They train with the department. They go to the part-time academy, then we come in, put them through almost a 6-month FTO program. They train with the department, they get all the same training, firearms, CPR.
Trained like on-call officer, part-time?
They're part-time, they're special, but they're part-time officers, and they get all the exact same training, with the exception of the full-time academy, that all of my officers have internally.
Mhm.
We pay them $17 an hour,
That's,
you know, for an
you
8-hour
carry a
shift.
weapon?
And so, they cover a beat.
Doesn't seem
They,
right.
so if I have 3 full, so I'll give you a 4 to 12 shift. On my 4 to 12 shift, I never go below 4 officers.
That's your minimum manning.
That's unwritten minimum manning. We never go below 4 officers on the street. If one of the officers, and it's all contractual, if one of the officers takes time off as a personal day, if they're out for more than 4 days, if they're out more than 3 days, and if they go to any training, all of those beats contractually can be filled by a special. So I'll have 3 full-time police officers and a 4th special acting in the same capacity as those other 3, for $17 an hour. And the other important part of our specials pool is we hire exclusively to our full-time from that specials pool.
Very similar
They
to
have-
the fire,
They
very
have-
similar.
We've been doing it for forever and ever and ever and ever.
The only difference is the fire is civil service.
Yeah, I was gonna say, thank God we're not civil service and police.
We used to be.
I would agree.
I know, I remember changing
Yeah,
that.
I agree. So we pulled from our part, they have buy-in. They know the community, they know the officers, and they have buy-in here. And so we handpick our full-timers out of that pool of people.
Now, this police special pool, are they a pool that it's tapped by a lot of communities, or is it just the East Hampton pool of officers?
The majority of our specials work solely for East Hampton.
But they're employees of East Hampton.
Right. Yeah, they're
They're
employees
employees. They can be
of the
employees
police
somewhere else
department.
too, but they're city
Yeah.
employees.
Part-time when they come on duty.
Right.
So they could be employed working a shift in the industrial park or someplace, and then you call them in at night, 4 to 12.
Yeah, I
You
can
can
give
do
you,
that.
I can give you a couple examples.
No, you don't have to.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, that's what they can do. It's
Yeah.
legal for them to do.
The majority of them have full-time jobs
Oh,
in the
yeah.
private sector, and they work part-time for us whenever they can.
I know I've heard the $17 an hour before, but that
Mhm.
seems low for a man to stand in front of a bullet. I'm sorry, that
Thank you.
seems low. I know it saves the city because it's part-time, we don't go into overtime and everything, but wow.
I
It
will-
doesn't seem right, when we're trying to get minimum wage for a McDonald's person at 15, 17 doesn't seem right. I'm sorry, I just have to say that.
And the culture, the police culture is that, and I remember when I was a young special, coming on this job, you do it for free, because it's a call.
It's a training situation too.
And it's a training situation. You're getting experience, and I remember when I was a young, and I was a special here, and I probably would have done it for free. And back then, I think we were making $7, maybe $9 an hour.
Well, when you put it that way, I guess it's a little better. I mean, from an experience point of view, they're getting experience, so that's good.
Right.
And the difference between requested and recommended is that you will just have fewer of them, or you have fewer hours to draw from that pool?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so if I'm, in my mind, if I'm not getting the, and also I have to pay them to train too.
Mhm.
So that $17 an hour special, that is also part of, their training.
Okay.
So in my mind, what I'm not getting in overtime regular, I try to maintain in the police specials so that I can keep that
So
staffing.
you kind of balance those two?
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions on police?
I don't know, I just find it very interesting that you're coming in lower than you did last year.
We put a person
Which
on
is-
PEG We
But
had
the
an
whole,
additional,
the
we
whole
had an
budget.
additional police officer.
So that reduced it offset the overtime enough?
That's what we're hoping, that's
Yeah,
why
and
we
it
put
does.
people
That's
on.
why I think that's why it's lower, right? That's what
Yeah.
Peg's
Yeah,
getting.
exactly, and I
Yep.
I can also speak to some staffing changes, and some give and take, even to the union. We're getting a lot more training, we're getting a lot more free training, and we have the latitude sometimes where the guys voluntarily will switch their shifts if I don't have to fill them
Mhm.
to go to training. So they'll work, if they work a 4 to 12, they'll work an admin day, keep their shift open, and they go to the training for free. And the guys have been really good about that. So it's been a give and take. They want to go to training, I want them to go to training, and this is kind of where we meet in the middle, which saves a tremendous amount of overtime.
Great.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about
Yeah,
that.
we work very hard to stay in the confines of our budget. And we do a pretty good job.
And it's still a 2%, you know, like, it's still an increase over last year's.
Mhm.
And even though, if you look at the increases, it's still, you know, larger than the fire, you know, it's just, that's our intention, is when you add employees to somehow try to cut down on some of the overtime costs, but, you know, it doesn't always work that way without, you know, you don't have any idea if you have injuries, if you have retirees, you know, there's
yeah.
Don't know
no
what's gonna
way of
hit.
really knowing, but that's what we plan for.
That's great.
That's our best plan.
Is police in negotiation this year too?
No, they
We're
are
not
not.
until next July.
No, they're not. DPW and fire.
This year. Good. Good. So we would see that supplemental coming our way once those negotiations are complete. Other police department stuff, supplies, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's higher than last year, but it's significantly less than what you requested, chief. So again, same question.
Overall?
What are you not gonna get?
But, and it's.
No,
Look
this
at
is
the
not
rate.
overall. This is
Yeah.
purchase of services.
And definitely answer, I
Where are
know
we-
you'll,
where are we?
be
Okay.
prepared to answer that, chief.
Total
But
blue, too.
it's typical, like each budget year, Peg, is typical to actually have your requests higher than what you unfortunately receive.
No, I know, I'm
Right.
just
So,
wondering
like, if you look at
he
what
had
was
built
asked
in.
for last
With
year
re-
and what they received.
So with regard to public safety supplies, as an example,
Yeah,
that is the line item that I actually just came before the council for ammunition. That's a particular line item where the
we'll just appropriate as needed.
Exactly, yeah, and then if there's something specific, like ammunition costs, something like that, then I may have to come back. But
Okay.
that's really the crux of it.
All right,
But from your point of view, and I'm sure you are, and anybody that's giving the mayor a requested budget, you're being realistic, you're not pie in the sky. You're
Oh,
being
no,
realistic about
yeah.
what this would be the best scenario if I could get this
Yeah,
much
no, no,
more,
I'll be honest.
and you fully understand the mayor's point of view.
Oh, without a doubt, we obviously, we converse, we meet quite a bit regarding the budget on, well, since.
Right, we
and
go
my
over
captain-
line item by line item.
And my, we work very hard, and to your point, this is my first budget, flying solo. I've done 3 with Chief McMahon, and this is I believe, the least amount that we've requested in my tenure. So we're not shooting for the stars and hoping just to, you know, we're taking.
maybe somebody won't be looking and you'll get 300,000 extra.
No.
Do you know Karen?
Exactly.
Melissa, she's looking.
No, everybody involved in my budget's done an amazing job. And again, I credit my staff and my department. We work very hard with what we have and what we're given.
Okay, anything else?
Are you building inspectors and animal control?
No, that would,
But that is under crossing
That's
I
guards.
get crossing guards.
right.
Let's see, you went up, it's level funded.
Yeah.
You requested but level funded. And their hourly rate, no benefits, they're just part-timers, right, crossing guards?
Right. And I believe they're at $11 an hour.
I had a question, I don't remember this, detention attendants? Is that a police officer that's on?
It used to be,
We don't
it
use
used to be a
those anymore.
civilian, it used to be a civilian that.
Right.
You don't use them anymore, right?
No,
Do you
no,
remember at the town hall we did, they had
Yeah.
to sit there when there was somebody in lockup?
I was one of them.
So now you'll see the assessment under the 5317,
The difference is we have the regional lockup now, which,
Right. which is great.
yeah, it's worth its weight in gold.
And that is the invoice that they charge us.
Lock up, I got you.
The 15.
Special assessment, yeah.
Exactly, the 15,250.
So you paid the
Right.
local. okay.
Right.
We talked
Paid
about
95%,
dispatch.
95 cents per box.
Mhm. Building inspector, is that under public safety? The
It's under
inspector?
public safety, it's just not under police.
Right.
Okay, well, I don't have anything else with the police department, do you guys? Joe? Okay, thank you, chief, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you
Cindy,
both.
is that right, Cindy?
Cindy, what's your last name?
Gary.
How do you spell that?
Perry.
Building inspector,
Thank you both for all your time. You're gonna
Thank you
notice a
very
lot
much.
of,
Zeroed
some of
out
the changes
stuff, yeah.
we were talking about in here, like you were just asking Peg.
Mhm.
So what we've done is, this is one of the offices, actually one of the budgets, that we've taken, all the inspectors and like, okay, if you just go down one. Right, so, thank you very much.
Good night,
So,
everyone. Thank you.
just thinking of the other inspectors, obviously, we have the building commissioner, we have the gas inspector, the plumbing inspector, the wire inspector, and they each had separate budgets. So what we've been trying to do is combine and put these all in one, this is inspectors, put them all in the same budget. And, so that's why you'll see some, when you see some increases, all that is eliminating one budget, which by the way would be a department number. 2410 is the building commissioner. Now they're building inspector, whatever. So now you'll notice that they're in there. So you'll see increases in most of the lines, but that does not mean that it's been added to. That's just the other budgets have been zeroed out. So.
I guess I'm missing something. How do we?
You'll see it as you go through, I'm just telling you ahead of time, as you start going through the building inspector, is that the one you're on?
Well, I'm seeing the general, and then I see the gas inspector, plumbing inspector, sealer of weights, wire inspector, all
Right.
zeroed out.
Yes.
So where are those duties
They're
listed?
in the building inspector now. They are now in the 2410, which is the building inspector's budget. They're all going to.
So that could be better stated as inspectors?
Right.
All
Right.
inspectors? Okay, all right, that's important.
Mhm.
Because the building inspector is full-time, whereas part-time are all the
They're
other.
stipends. The
All
other
the other
inspectors
ones
are
are
stipends.
stipend, okay.
But they still, have, some type of expenses, not only their stipends, they
Mhm.
have,
And those are listed below, right?
right. Yep. It was just a heads up, Peg.
That's just mainly an accounting efficiency move.
Right, remember when we took, personnel, for instance, had a separate negotiator budget, it's now in the personnel budget. You'll see it in quite a few of them, it's just cleaning it up and putting things where they are anyway.
Okay.
But it's different department numbers, so it's eliminating those department numbers, not the people.
Because they really are one department.
Mhm.
They all work together, every time you get a permit pulled, whatever specialty you're working under, you need to pull the permit there, it all is in their systems there, that makes sense.
So I apologize if your name just blacked out there for a second.
How
The
long
gas-
was I out?
Yeah, the gas inspector for 2018, there's nothing, so that has been
That's
absorbed.
right.
Do you know where that went, which?
It would,
It's in,
the 2410.
Part-time regular?
Part-time, yeah.
Okay.
And those are, like I was explaining, those are stipends, but the amounts are still listed in there.
Right.
So building inspector, part-time. I got you.
Right, so that's gonna be the plumbing, the
Mhm.
gas, the electrical, and
Wire, plumbing, gas,
weights and measures as well.
sealer of weights and measures.
Then shouldn't that shouldn't it be increased from 17? It looks to me, if I'm looking at this, that it's about, like, for instance, if I'm looking at, oh, that's building inspector part-time.
Right.
Like, where, so if you tell me what line the money for gas inspector in 18 has gone to?
Yeah, so like gas inspector has nothing, right?
Right.
And so it's gone to building inspectors part-time. We used to have a part-time, we had a commissioner and a
It's
part-time.
in the 5118, and the reason you don't see it, Joe, is because we had an alternate commissioner, and
So I was gonna say, when I look at 17,
Right.
18, it's level funded, so I was
Exactly.
wondering, okay.
We had a part-time building inspector, local inspector, I think it was probably the proper name, and we don't use that anymore. So we've increased clerical, and so that's why you're not noticing a big jump in that line.
Does that give the, I assume, building inspector the ability to move money into different inspectors? For instance, we don't need as much wire inspection as we need gas inspection.
No,
They
we
receive a
don't.
stipend.
No, they're.
So the stipends are, they all come out of the same line, so it doesn't matter, okay.
Right.
It's a stipend.
They're paid monthly.
They are paid monthly.
Not the building inspector, because he's a full-time permanent employee.
Right, but a wire inspector's paid monthly, so if there's
Yeah.
1,000 wire inspections one month and 10 the next month, it doesn't matter.
He receives a monthly stipend.
Just
Okay.
like you.
That's what I was
And it's
wondering. Okay.
divided by the yearly amount.
Right,
It's
got
not,
it, got it, got
it's
it.
not per inspection.
Got it. And of course, these inspectors have to be certified,
Oh, yeah.
of course.
And we're extremely lucky with our plumbing, gas, and wire, and sealer waste. They, as who work for a stipend, they're very good at what they do.
Okay.
And you'll notice too that there's a temporary line there, and that's so that if any of the inspectors, the local inspector, the building, or.
Or you put it at 3,000?
Yeah, and, because we never really had that before, but if we need to get a replacement for a week or something like that, then it's there for, and for any of them, any of the types, any of the specialties.
So if a wire inspector's out sick for a month, he doesn't get his stipend because he's out sick.
Technically he does.
That's why I'm asking, so
Yeah.
that's why you need that extra money, because you're gonna have to have somebody
That's
come
why
in and
we-
do it.
That's why we put it in,
Yeah.
and,
In the past, we've
and then-
come to you,
Right.
rather, but
Same thing
when this
with the-
happens,
Well, they had all different ways of doing it in the past.
Okay.
With stipend employees, they have sometimes they trade off their services in whatever community they are in. We felt it's more appropriate to have a fill-in line and invoice it that way.
Good.
Same thing if we needed, if our full-time commissioner, was to be out of the office for, even just for a couple of weeks for vacation. If he felt that, it was a heavy permitting time and we should have coverage, then we can use that funding for that too.
Mhm. We give the inspector, I think we do, yeah, he has a vehicle, right?
He
He
has
uses
use of one of our
one of
recycled
our
ones,
recycled
and
ones.
just last year,
Mhm.
yeah, just
Good.
last year. The
I noticed
assessor's
that.
office,
I noticed books and periodicals went up to 1,000, I guess that's good. He's getting needs.
yeah, and don't
Keep
forget.
up with stuff.
And don't forget, it's all of them. It's not just the building inspector, it's
Ah,
all of them.
there you go.
So whatever changes occur
Mhm.
or requirements,
and they're cyclical too, so some years they need
Mhm.
stuff.
and some years they don't.
Mhm. Okay. We pay them for recertification? Well, that's just necessary, their job, they have to prove theirs.
They get classes.
Right, like the plumbing and the gas, he takes different classes and he's, compensated even when he has to.
Animal control. And that money goes to the, I'm
That-
sorry, you guys have anything else in
I have
the
a-
inspection?
Oh, I'm
Animal
sorry.
control.
Yes, so with the animal control, you know that we regionalized 2
Regionalized.
years ago with Westfield. They're in a much, they also serve other communities, I believe. I know Agawam's one, I believe West Springfield's another. They have a wonderful humane shelter there that we visited before we entered into any contract with them, so this will be, you know, an additional year that we're with them. They have a fantastic, as your proof of, they have a fantastic, find homes for the animals, so it's, we're not in the kennel business, so they're able to do it.
So which line, is
Where are
what
you?
we owe them from under animal control that we're, I mean, it has.
It would be the 5319.
The 14,500.
The
Okay,
14,500.
so it stayed level from last year, that fee hasn't gone up from, oh, no, it has, it's gone up. $1,500, is that correct?
It was adjusted
no,
down for
that-
some reason this year.
Yeah, they moved, I believe that they moved money from
Mhm.
from the contract to the salary line, because we do pay some people to do some, stuff in town.
Like same, right?
Right, so like, it didn't change, it just went up to this,
The amount,
right?
the bottom line.
Bottom line
The
didn't change.
14.5, Joe.
Okay.
Who supervises this?
It's out of my office, I pay
It's
the
your office,
invoices.
not public safety people? or-
Well, as far as animal control, it does fall underneath the police, but the invoices and the contracts come to my office. But if somebody has an issue with an animal, it's dispatch and a police supervisor.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
Calls in, if somebody's needed, sometimes actually they'll have the dog, if it has its license on it,
Mhm.
it's just a phone call. But if.
Does a police officer have to deal with it?
They will.
I'm just wondering if
Yep.
they're responsible for it until we get someone from Westfield? How does that work?
They will call, if we need somebody, they will call. They make the decision when to call. If
Do
it's.
they bring them to the complex?
A lot of times, yes, but a lot of times it's just a quick phone call, dogs.
Meet me
you know,
on the-
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
the whole thing about a license, the dog license, that's their phone call home.
Right, exactly.
You know, I don't think people realize that.
Why it's important, so if you have
It's-
a lost dog and
because
somebody
that
finds it, it's
number,
right there.
that number tells them everything.
Mhm.
But if it doesn't have a number and we need the dog, you know, picked up, the owner has not called dispatch, because a lot of owners are gonna call right away or Facebook. And, they'll make the decision and call Westfield to either pick up the animal or, you know, they can drop it, sometimes they drop it off, or a lot of different reasons. Injured animal, could be anything, but they make the determinations there.
Okay.
So it's worked out, really well.
Just out of curiosity, what's the scenario if police are called because there's a dog hit by the car on the road? Do they take it to do we have an arrangement with vets
We
here,
can
or-
take it to a vet here.
Uh-huh.
Or if for some reason, say it was the middle of the night and they needed to call somebody in,
Uh-huh.
but normally we will, you know, take care of the medicals.
Uh-huh.
You know, we have different, different ways of doing it here, or, you know, if it was called in, but normally, like an emergency, they would not wait for somebody from Westfield to get called in, but they do also offer that service.
Oh, yeah?
And then they would use their veterinarian services in their area, whoever
Right,
they use.
right.
So if
But
it's deemed not life-threatening, they may take it to Westfield or have Westfield come and get it?
If they make the determination, if it's injured, an emergency situation, they would get it, they would
Right
get
to
it
the
taken.
nearest vet, right?
Exactly. We
Okay.
would get it to a vet here.
Okay, good.
Local vet would be the way to say it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions other than that on public safety? Okay, since you're so good at it, make a motion?
Motion, I move that the city council finance committee recommend to the full council to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,323,941.19 for the various departments listed under section 2, public safety, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations as recommended by the mayor and finance committee.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. General government, which includes the city council. Boy, they got a big increase this year.
You know you voted it.
Able to retire in a year.
Yeah, right. We're still much less than most, well, cities.
What's the reduction on the clerical?
What Barbara does is she puts in for, even though you don't meet twice in, July and August, she puts in as if you do. So we figured that we had to compensate for the increase that was voted in for the counselors, so that was something that we figured we could count on, that typically you
Where are you saying that?
haven't met in July and August.
Okay, I see.
And if for any reason you did need to, well, you certainly would probably approve a transfer of funds.
The president is charming in those ways. Okay, council is basic.
I assume the salaries are steps as appropriate.
Where are you talking now?
Where are you?
Mayor?
The mayor,
The mayor's flat.
Mine is flat.
the clerical.
The clerical is steps, but also my clerical, what you're looking at, the way it looks like a little bit of a different increase is because she had, the last couple of years taken a 2 weeks without pay, so hers was less than it should have been.
Okay.
So that wasn't put in because that's, that was a request, it was a savings to the city. It's getting pretty much unbearable for her to even take time off, so that's not something that she has requested to do this year. And with a staffer of 1, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
She does get some vacation.
She gets vacation, but this was unpaid.
Unpaid.
She had taken 2 weeks
She
unpaid.
needed some time off, right?
Well, she requested, there's different ways to save in your budgets, and she requested 2 weeks unpaid the last couple of years.
Mhm.
So that was not in that line.
Okay.
So this is her regular, just her regular salary. And as you can see, nothing else changed.
All right, licensing board,
Change to that part-time salary, clerical.
Just been having a meeting.
Yeah.
more meetings?
More meetings, longer meetings, and again, like this is done on my time, so not always that much time to fit all these things in. So this is a clerical for the licensing board, and they've actually been having a lot of additional meetings, which you can understand why, increasing the above quota licenses, and,
Mhm. Yep,
their meetings
exactly.
have been longer.
Yeah.
So these meetings are obviously, after work, so.
How many, people on the board?
3.
One Democrat, one Republican, and one other.
That's right.
One what?
Unenrolled.
Oh,
Are you
that covers
serious?
them all.
It has to be one from each party.
I didn't
and
know
then-
that.
But it doesn't have to be the one enrolled, but unenrolled, but it has to be one from each
Oh.
party. So, yeah.
Really?
Yes. That's the way it's set up. It's set up by the state, and their terms are different also. Their terms are, I believe, in June, and they're set by MGO.
Do they where would they be traveling to? For conferences?
Once, there's conferences for the municipal licensing authorities,
Okay.
like, actually, they're really very, a lot of updated information, like when the ABCC decided to have all their, applications online, which was a fantastic plus, so that you do all the applications online, and instituting that and any of the changes that
You have
that they make,
Right.
they're very, very informative.
Okay.
Do we expect in the future, if as marijuana things change around here, that marijuana will probably also be handled by the same licensing?
I don't know, well, that's something we're gonna have to look into,
That would,
That'd
it
be
would
part of the
probably be them,
ordinance.
but I'll bet you we're gonna need more meetings. I would think, if it's a license, it's a license. I mean, they're doing alcohol now, so.
Well, I think we'll have to see how it's set up with the state. That's what the state is doing now. So we'll have to see where they put that authority locally. That's the only licensing board we have, so, at this point, but
I guess create
we'll have to
another
see how it's all set up.
Are we allowed to increase that, or is that the state? Is that, us or the state? If we wanted to increase it because we saw a need for the marijuana,
Increase what, the board?
the board membership?
That is set up like that for the state, so I think we'd have to.
We'd have to go through the state and request it to be larger if we wanted to.
But again, I would think they probably, you know, knowing
Accommodate
what's
that.
what's coming the way, I think they're going to
They
look
may
at where
say
that-
it has to be
who,
5.
you know, who's gonna have that authority in your communities.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. City auditor, are you guys ready to go to city auditor?
Yeah, ready?
So,
Again,
minor increase in pay.
Steps. Just steps
Steps
and.
for the assistant. Okay. Everything else is pretty,
Mhm.
almost level funded, so we're good. I don't have any questions. Any
Nope.
questions, city auditor? Okay.
So-
Telephone expense.
Sorry, just one quick, we were changing, this is a treasurer/auditor, what are you again?
No, it's the treasurer, tax collector's
Tax
office, so
collector.
we're not changing them, we're combining them.
Okay, right.
You'll get to that.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if Melissa's taking on the auditor's job too.
Auditor, tax collector.
She already is. We'll just give her a suite. Bed. All right. Telephone expenses, flat funding. no
Pay the
problem.
bill.
Is that,
Ah,
I'm just curious, is that a specific vendor or?
Yes,
Verizon?
and we use usually the state bid for it,
Okay.
Okay.
for pricing.
So I have some questions in the assessor's office. I'm
Okay.
just curious how that is reorganized. I see that
Okay,
assistance is
Mhm.
down a lot.
yep.
So where are we with,
Okay, so
With
what's
the-
happened is, you know, we have a fairly new,
Assessor.
a principal assessor. And we meet regularly with her to discuss how she best feels her office would be served. And these are the things that she has come up with. So we are honoring her requests, as to her staffing levels.
so what
And
are her
she's made
staffing
some-
levels right now?
Right now, it is her full-time and a part-time clerical, a part-time person.
So in the past, we used to do a lot of field work with the assessor. Is that gone now?
Some of it some of it she contracts out.
But does she still
but-
go out and do assessments?
Yes, she does, and, again, this is when you hire a department head that knows how to run a department and
I'm not
manage a
questioning
department.
it, I'm just
No, but I mean,
wondering.
these are her suggestions, and, that she felt that this is the way she would like to reorganize her office,
So if she's out, there is someone there.
Yes, she has a staff.
There's always someone in the office to take questions.
Not always, she has a part-time person.
That's what I mean, a part-time
Yeah.
person.
Yep.
Quite a drop in salary line.
She had 2 part-time people when we started and doing 2 different things that she felt it's more efficient to do it this way. And if this position ends up needing to grow, but that's, you know, that's what.
Is the part-timer also part-time in another office?
No.
No, just
Nope.
her, just there? Okay.
Yep.
How many hours a week is that?
Sh-
19?
Yeah, this might be up to 19, I don't know if she's 16 or whatever, but it's not 20.
Okay.
And we work with her regularly on this, meet with her to see, you know, how things going. You know, she made some changes during this fiscal year. And, you know, how, did she find it beneficial, you know, what she's trying and what she likes. And this is what she found has worked so far.
It sounds like you'd be receptive to her if she came back to you and said, I need a few more hours.
Absolutely, and she's well aware of that,
Okay,
well aware of it.
okay. It's important
She's been
that
a
people know
huge
that it was
plus.
her,
She's been a huge, I don't think I have to tell you what a huge plus she has been to that office.
Okay, so, anything else on assessors? So purchase, under that, purchase of services would be, we don't have a reval this year,
Right.
so that would go up the year we'd have a reval.
It typically does, but she is, you know, she's trying to keep more on top of it too, so
Right.
that it's a little more even. So she worked on that really hard this year in preparation of the reval year.
When you mean even, it's,
Yeah.
the expectation is that they're not gonna have major jumps in valuation.
Right, I mean, the reval year is more work just because you have to do more things, but her schedule of looking at properties is more aggressive so that it doesn't feel so.
And very efficient.
Right, so it's
And-
much at once.
Which had something to do with this planning.
Wow.
Yeah, very impressive.
Very
It's
good.
awesome.
It is.
I mean,
It's very commendable.
Yeah. It's great.
Mhm.
Okay. So this person is the collector of taxes and the treasurer. Wow, she's working hard.
So those are all just combined now?
Exactly.
Zeroed
So
out.
when you see, that's what's very difficult for, any percentages. So.
But we have more, well, all the assistants and clerks in both departments are now listed under assisted salary.
Right.
So we have, how many assistants do you have? You have 2 in tax and 2 in
So
treasurer?
I have-
it's a combination of both offices.
Right, so I
So-
have an assistant tax collector, an assistant treasurer, and I have two
Total.
clerks, that do payroll and tax collections.
Mhm.
Right.
It's 5.
You,
Yeah, so 6.
yeah.
So you find it more efficient, Melissa? Someone should ask why we did that.
Well, I mean,
You
for
could
me,
defend
It
I-
needed to be updated.
Well, I agree, but
well, I mean, I think having us all in one place is more
Mhm.
efficient, just because the door can be open all the time.
Mhm.
Oh, you're talking
there.
about the office itself?
well, I'm
The physical
asking,
office.
if people would ask,
Mhm.
why did we do this? Because it's more efficient.
Well, I think you would have to start at how the position was originally created, and, being.
When we have yeah.
Exactly.
The
So
finance director
What we
position.
always knew is when that position opened up, we would go back to the original intent of how the position was created, which is what we did. And then when we did that, was great, but you have you have an office on one side of the hallway and another office on the other. So it just made perfect sense to move the offices, and it was really little, if no inconvenience. We had the wall taken down on a Friday and Saturday. And so no interruption to services, and then the following, 2 weeks later, moved the offices, and,
And Mel's skill set probably modernized some of the things in tax collecting as well.
I think a lot of different changes, but having all of, if you're going to basically combine both offices, I
Starting
think
the
it.
cross-train process, so,
Yeah.
it's fairly new for
Putting
them to
everybody
be
together,
together,
yeah.
but.
Coverage.
But, the idea is that we can all help each other
Mhm.
and work more efficiently.
Efficient and
That's what I meant.
cross-training and
It's
coverage.
just efficient.
People
So,
helping each other.
question on treasury, admin, and clerks. So if you combine that with the part-time clerical under collector of taxes, you're still about 50,000 short of what was recommended, so is that,
That was-
so it's on the same 1450 and 1460?
Okay,
So treasury, admin, and clerks, we've got 101,970 as the recommended.
uh-huh,
But if you add that to the part-time people below, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do, that only gets you to 51.
Well, the 30 up above.
Yeah, the 3049 from 2017.
Mhm.
Oh, because there was 2 department heads. It's really,
Right.
if you combine the,
You'd
like
have to do the
the
40.
salaries,
Yeah.
like at the bottom, it's
Mhm.
really, they're pretty much level.
The increase is from, if we look at the original budget, I see that as 275, 875. Original 2017 budget. Went down to 236 with, I guess, changes during the year, but the request and the amount is 275, 514.
Mhm.
So the actual budget is down from last year's original budget.
Correct.
So,
mm-hmm,
in other words, I think, Peg, the original, the budget it's more efficient. Also, if we combine the tax collector's salary with the salary of the
Right.
treasurer, it doesn't add up to, that's, my math is right, 94,000, and it's 84, so there's 10,000 in there. correct, my math was not as good as it used to be. So, I'm looking at the bottom line, is all I'm saying, Peg.
Does that answer that, Peg?
Kind of, but I'm assuming that everything, because of
Mhm.
people's roles and the
Mhm.
salary, it's just all rejiggered, as it
That's
were.
right.
And so.
That's exactly right, Peg.
So it's not a one-for-one recombining, it's pieces of people and
That's
pieces of
correct,
salaries.
because
Okay.
different grades,
Yeah.
exactly for that reason, Peg,
Okay.
different grades, different, you know, different
Were
personnel.
there grade
different grades.
changes necessary because of the way
well,
you changed the job?
Well, because the tax collector obviously had a different grade versus what an assistant would have or what a clerical would have.
Right, but
So,
what I'm
yeah.
saying is when you combine the offices, did the positions of the assistants,
Their
No.
positions did not.
No,
they did
they
not,
did
their
not
grades
change.
did not change?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying it's
No.
good for any reason other than that explains it, that's what I meant, okay. All right. You okay with that?
Mhm.
Mr. Carey, you have too many questions, we're gonna have to talk to you after the meeting.
But, that's because these are the things that I was just saying ahead of time, you're gonna, the little heads up, you're gonna notice different things in
Yeah.
there. Because obviously, when you see somebody that has a complete budget that's now zero, it's gonna raise a little,
Where'd that money go?
Yeah,
Who's doing
exactly.
that job now?
yeah, so it's just combination.
You mean we're not
And-
collecting
and
any
I've been doing
taxes
this-
anymore?
I've been doing this, reconsolidating and restructuring, this is year 4, and I'll continue to do it. It's how we achieve efficiency,
Yeah.
We actually, one of the first ones we started was in your office in payroll, when we moved payroll down from the school. So, and it is exactly for those purposes, cross-training, coverage, efficiency, and having everybody together is.
And better customer service. I compliment that. Okay. So, anything else on,
No, nothing on the treasurer.
is purchase of services the auditor, auditing? Is what it was?
No, that's in the city auditor's budget, so.
Oh, okay.
We have, in purchase of services, that's tax collector, we pay the deputy collector for services of printing and, mailing of deputy, bills, and, what else do I have in there? I have, a contract with a financial advisor, I have, some legal stuff for tax title, I have, insurances.
I see it. It's all listed under treasurer now.
Right.
Right.
Okay. that makes
Exactly.
sense. All right.
How much staff is over there now, full-time, part-time?
Total of 6,
Okay, 6, how does that break down?
including Melissa.
Melissa's the only
Oh, you're the
supervisor.
only full-time?
No, there's only 2 part-time.
So 4 full-time, 2 part-time, or 5 full-time, 2 part-time, which equals 6?
There's 6 bodies,
Right.
6 human beings.
6 human beings, 2
2,
part-timers,
3,
4 full-timers if you include me.
right.
Got it.
Okay.
I'm moving on to computer. I noticed a major salary jump. No, am I reading, is that 6 or an 8? That's
No.
6, right?
Right,
It's
yep.
a 6, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I thought it was an 8. I'm supposed to get new glasses.
And,
Do we have enough software licenses? Are we good on those? I noticed you actually came down a little bit from, are we up to date on that?
Again, working together, and trying to save some of the licenses. Barry is our computer, our IT person, and working along with the schools, and they've been able to, make some savings that way also, and that's something that you're going to see in the very, very near future, some more changes with, combination with the schools and the city side. and
Right
the-
now, are you talking about personnel changes?
No, just, even more working together in those departments.
In like the software?
In
purchase of
everything,
software. Okay.
in everything.
feel comfortable with equipment, that it is current enough right
Yes.
now?
He upgrades all the time. Whenever anybody needs upgrades, he's on top of it.
Okay. City attorney, level funded.
Right. That's one of my budgets, and it didn't, haven't seen any increases, so,
So does he charge by the hour?
yes, he does.
So his rate, you're saying, hasn't gone up, so we'll have the same number of hours?
His rate went up a year or two ago, but
Okay.
it's not about the same amount of hours. I base it by, where we are, when we plan for our budget.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty flat. Again, that's one thing, you never know if we have a year where it's, like, we, have some really, really long opinions that we need, and many opinions, but,
You can see
it's
the
a great
jump from
service for.
15 to 16 was major, $5,000.
It's a great service for the city.
He does a good job.
Yes. And it's invoiced monthly, so we can usually see if we're gonna get low on that. But, it's one of the few budgets I don't remember going back forever for a transfer.
Personnel department. As I noticed, the salary's gone down. Is that because of the different
Yes,
entry position of the new personnel director?
probably more of the clerical.
On the
Like, you'll
clerical.
notice that there's
Yeah,
no
there's 7,000.
longevity
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
so, a new clerical. We had a retiree, so people are at the top of the scale, and,
It's more entry level or whatever it is.
Right.
yep, we have 9 steps.
Yeah, got it, yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Okay. Any questions on personnel? No?
Is the step strictly on time, or is it time and merit?
The
or how-
strips, the steps are on their anniversary.
Per year?
Mhm.
The year.
I take it we're having an actuarial study done this year? Yes.
What are we looking at? What were you looking at?
The actuarial study that jumps from 1250 to 7250.
What?
It's in the next purchase of services.
It's under the 5739, right above the total.
Oh, okay, 7,300, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
when that's, go ahead.
So every other year it will pop up like that, so they recertify the same study for the 1,200, and then they, like, she's gotten several quotes to do the actuarial study for this year. And this is the reason it's in her budget, it's on post-employment benefits. So this is the actuarial study that says how much is it gonna cost us to pay for health insurance for a retiree.
Got it.
That's required.
Oh, yeah.
And it's required.
It's required.
Okay. City clerk, step increase for Barbara? 61 to 63?
They would not.
She's stepped up, she's
Right.
full, right?
Yeah. What,
Is that a COLA?
what Barbara had asked, and it was granted, as you can see by the increases, she had requested, to be with the RAO. She felt that that would be additional work on her.
What's an RAO?
For public records. So she will be 35 hours.
So she went up a
So it's
couple
an
hours.
additional, 1 hour, it's an additional hour.
Because most pay plan employees are at 32.5?
34.
34 hours. Good.
And she felt that, the tracking of that would be, we do need a centralized, first of all, it needed to be appointed, which, I did, but she felt that, to keep track of that, it would be a burden on her, so it's 31 hour.
Okay.
But that is,
Nothing else in there is unusual. Okay, going to Elections, we do have an election this year.
Which is strange, I mean,
It's
well,
not-
is it because?
It's not a federal election.
Okay, I was just gonna say, is that why it's?
It's a local.
It's different.
So no primary, so not a primary.
It's probably our sandwiches, right? $500.
No, that's in our own budget. Sandwiches. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
have-
mean, that little
for
bit
our
of food we have swearing in,
inauguration,
that would
that's in
probably,
ours.
that's what it is.
It's in ours. City
It's not
council.
under
It's
the-
in
Is it?
3 budgets.
Oh,
Is it really? So don't eat sandwiches
I have a
from
share-
another.
They all have a little
I
tag
have
with
a
the
share of
label.
it.
You can only eat a third of a
when the-
sandwich.
We all have a share of that big feast.
Oh, boy.
There might be chips this
We
year.
really splurged. City planner,
Okay, so you're gonna notice, this is
that's a
another one.
major increase.
Well, it's not, you're going to notice that some of the
Oh,
smaller
no,
departments,
that's a 3,000, yeah.
some of the smaller departments are now, in there too. So,
No, arts,
like,
they were always in.
I wanted
they
to.
were not.
Oh, they weren't?
No, they were
So East Hampton
grants.
City Arts is now in there, Conservation Commission is there, EDIC is there, let's see, all the other ones that say 0. Recycling, planning board, I think we put the PVPC assessment in there also. Zoning board, so all the small, boards and committees that had their own department are now in the city planner.
Part-time regular. That's where that increase is. The city ECA Arts Coordinator,
Yes,
that
was its separate budget before, now it's in the city planner's budget.
was grant funded. When did we start paying that full-time? 2 years ago?
We'd still split away.
Right,
Still some grant in it? Okay.
yeah. But, we provided them 100% of what they asked for, as you can see.
Mhm.
That was the request from the department and from the coordinator and from the planner, and that was what was provided was 100% of their request.
Is that a step increase from this hour? Jessica, it's 3,000, am I reading that right?
So Jessica's probably still getting steps and also,
She is still getting steps, but
But so, some years she can, pay an hour or two from her CDBG grant, but since there was no award this year, we have to fund her full hours.
Oh, some years they were paid for out of grants.
Well-
Okay.
Just, we because she is over
Administrative.
the CDBG administrative, but in a non-award year.
Got it. Any questions?
So really the delta here, I say no questions and then I immediately launch into
I was gonna say.
No, but here's a question. So the delta is the ECA coordinator salary that's basically the difference, it looks like, roughly-ish.
well,
Oh,
like
no, it was there before, 20, oh,
It
it
wasn't
went up a
there
little
before.
bit.
Right, it was its own department before, and Peg's right, so like you're looking at what the big changes are.
I see.
Yeah,
But the
I'm
oth- the
bottom
rest of-
lining it.
Exactly, but the rest of them are very small changes, because, EDIC had a nominal budget, as did and zoning, so it just doesn't make sense to split all those out and have them have their own departments when they are out of the I'm sorry, was this something we said? Which they fall
Peg's
underneath.
last question put me over there.
It generally
Thank you,
has a
Joe,
effect.
which they fall under the planning, the city planner anyway. And as a matter of fact, she's the supervisor for the ECA plus, but, so it just makes more sense to clean them all up and put them all in the departments that they fall, instead of having separate departments for everything. But yes, you're correct on that.
So things like advertising and
Mhm.
education and training,
They're all in there.
you don't have to like nickel and dime it down to, you can just have one big pool and then people can draw from it and they can allocate it however they want.
And
Well,
instead
right, and
of-
she's the one signing all the POs anyway.
Yeah.
Instead of doing, say you have 5 different departments, and
Right.
doing 5 different purchase orders and 5
It's
different bill
crazy, yeah.
schedules and 5 different,
Efficiency.
it's streamlined, it's
That's
gonna
great.
continue, so.
That's great, that's awesome.
It is very awesome. I just want to say, as an artist myself, that I appreciate the ECA Plus coordinator is fully funded and salaried. We need that position. In the past, I remember a former counselor wanting to cut the position because we don't need arts. I won't tell you who that was. Anyway, thank you. All right, any other questions on?
And I really mean
You sure? Huh? Building operations, this is all under you, right?
That one's mine. So, you know, as you can see, you know, I maintain this building, 50 Payson, 32 Payson, COA, and Town Hall.
Mhm.
So a lot of things fall underneath here. It just makes more sense, again, to group them together. You know, as far as what repairs you're gonna need, it's your best guesstimate. Same thing with, you don't know if you're gonna have an extremely hot year, an extremely cold year. So the budget can fluctuate many times, but, you know, we base it on where we are at this point in time.
Mhm. Any questions? Peg?
No.
Yeah, sure.
No, and I'm
All right.
renege on it.
Manhan Rail Trail, that's minor maintenance, right?
She does fundraising for a good portion of that, and it was decided several years ago to start supplementing her fundraising budget for the maintenance of the rail trail.
Her being the city planner.
Yeah,
No,
no,
actually,
Barbara.
Barbara
Barbara's,
runs that.
Barbara's doing it now?
Rail
Okay.
She always has.
Yeah,
I knew she was on the committee, I didn't know her.
she is probably the most instrumental person on that committee.
Yes,
Like they've,
thank God.
she's done a lot of work over the years, and
All right, well, we're at the point of no return. So we can do a general government, we have to give Peg Dan one more chance to ask a question, you think?
Looks like she's ready to go.
All
No,
right.
I can wait if you have questions.
It's hard to shut him up sometimes, you know?
I move that the City Council Finance Committee recommend to the full City Council to raise and appropriate the sum of $647,815.93 for the various departments listed under Section 1, General Government, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amounts to be transferred as recommended by the mayor and finance committees. Water and sewer enterprise, $102,781.65. Parking fund, $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are done. Move we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. See you Wednesday.
yep, thank you very much.
Hey, Karen, you have 5 minutes
Of course,
after the meeting?
yep. I have to bring everything in my office anyway.